Hey everybody, my name is Dan Harms, and I am here today to talk to you about the cardinal and theological virtues. Well, a virtue is basically a habit. A habit is something that you do, right? There are good habits, there are bad habits. Now, I am a guitar player. I love playing guitar. The problem with me playing guitar is that I've never actually learned to play it the right way. I've got bad habits that I've formed over the years. My pinky finger. I almost never use it. I should. It's a great finger. The virtues that we're going to talk about today, these are good habits. These are not only good habits, but they're so good that they help form the foundation for all of the other character traits that we have, right? All the other habits that we build in our lives. First, let's talk about the name, Cardinal. Not the state bird of Virginia, although it is the state bird of Virginia. We're talking about a different kind of cardinal. The same way that we would use the word cardinal for cardinal directions. You know, north, south, east, and west, right? These are the directions that set the orientation for everything. Similarly, the word cardinal comes from the root that we would use for hinge or pivot, right? And so it's the thing that sets us up and you know, kind of sets the direction of all of the different things that we do. And the four cardinal virtues are as follows: prudence, justice, temperance, and fortitude. Prudence, justice, temperance, and fortitude. Prudence, justice. Number one, dear Prudence. So the virtue of prudence disposes practical reason to discern our true good in every circumstance and to choose the right means of achieving it. What does this mean? Right? This means that with prudence, we're able to understand what's good for us, which is sometimes really hard to do. There are things that we might be attracted to, things that we want to do that we know are not good for us. Have you ever gone trick-or-treating and at the end of the night, every fiber of your being wants to stay up all night and eat every last morsel of that candy? But prudence is the thing that tells you, stop! That's not a good idea. You should not do that. That will make you sick. You will be hurling candy if you do that. Don't do it. Prudence is the ability to know that it's not a good idea for us to pursue that thing, right? Instead, we realize, oh, I could just kind of back off a little bit. I could enjoy some of the candy and not all of the candy, and maybe come out a little bit better. Now, there's a lot of other ways that we can illustrate and show what prudence is. There are situations where we're gathering around with our friends, where we're in a situation where everybody's like, hey, yeah, we're going to go do this thing. And you might have a sense like, oh, you know what? Maybe that is not the best idea. Let's say, for instance, that we're going to go and throw pumpkins at geese. Now, that might sound fun. It might sound fun to grab a pumpkin and throw it at a goose. You know, maybe geese deserve it. I don't think they do. They probably don't. They're just birds, right? But prudence might be the thing for you to kind of take a look at your life and say, you know what? This might not be the best thing for me to do. And in order for me to stand up to that, to say, no, I shouldn't do it, even though everybody wants to do it, it sounds really fun. There's one goose that I really don't like. I'd really love to hit him with a pumpkin. Prudence is the thing that tells you, no, don't do that. And the better you get at recognizing what is actually good for you and picking a way to pursue that good, well, the stronger that virtue of prudence is within you. And this is something that we can ask God for. We can ask God to help increase in us our ability to determine what is good for us and how do we go about pursuing it. Virtue number two. The second cardinal virtue that we're going to talk about is that of temperance. Now, temperance dovetails really beautifully with prudence because temperance is the thing that allows us to do things in moderation. Temperance moderates the attraction of pleasures and provides balance in the use of created goods. It ensures the will's mastery over instincts and keeps desires within the limits of what's honorable. That quote is from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, paragraph 1809. Now, what are we talking about when we talk about limiting and moderating our attraction to things? Well, let's go back to that candy, right? We know that eating all that candy is not going to be good for us, but we need the will and the strength to be able to say no to it. And that's where this cardinal virtue of temperance comes in. It allows us to recognize what's in the world around us, the things that we're attracted to, and to be able to recognize and moderate in pursuit of prudence what we take in, what we use. There's a lot of different ways that we need to use this virtue of temperance. For instance, let's say that there is a joke in your friend group and it is hysterical. It's so funny. And you guys share this joke and you're laughing and you're just like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. And you're laughing about it and you can't stop laughing about it. And then you go to lunch and you're drinking your chocolate milk and suddenly chocolate milk is just like squirting out of your nose, right? And you're dying laughing. It is so funny. And then you get to class and you realize that it's still just as funny as it was in the lunchroom or was earlier in the day. And so you keep laughing about it, but your teacher's trying to teach and your teacher's starting to get a little annoyed. And suddenly your teacher shoots you the look. Like if you make one more noise or giggle one more time about this joke, you will be going home barefoot and grounded. Like there's a moment when you realize, okay, I have this good humor. Right? This humorous, funny joke. This is something that is making my friend group bond together. It's good. It's fun. We're all laughing. But there's a time and a place, right? There's an appropriate amount of laughing and goofing around that should be done. And so temperance is the kind of thing that gives you the ability to say, hey, look, I realize that right now, even though this joke is so funny, I would willingly shoot chocolate milk out of my nose again. Right now is not the time. It's not the time or the place. It's not appropriate. Not appropriate. So I'm going to temper my desire to giggle and laugh and shoot chocolate milk out of my nose. And I'm going to pay attention in school. Now, is that fun? That's not necessarily fun. But is that prudent, right? Is that good for you in the long run? You betcha. It definitely is. It helps the teacher. It helps all the other students in your class learn. It helps you to pay attention so that you can have more times laughing with your friends later. The next cardinal virtue that I want to talk about is the cardinal virtue of fortitude. It ensures a firmness in difficulties and a constancy in pursuit of the good. Now, this is the thing that strengthens us. It's like, dude, how did you have the strength not to keep making that joke? Right? Because that joke was so funny. How did you say no? How did you say no to all of that candy? You knew it was so good. It's so delicious. Twizzlers, so good. But fortunately, we have this virtue of fortitude that strengthens us. It enables us to look temptation in the face and say, not today, temptation. Not today. I'm going to be stronger than you. See, when we give in to our temptations over and over and over again, we might think that we're being really free. Like, I'm free to do whatever I want, whenever I want to do it. But a couple times in my life, I've realized, like, I'm actually not free at all when I say yes to every single temptation that comes my way. Because what I've lost is my ability to say no. For example, every time I get in my car, I turn on music. I love listening to music. And for Lent one year, I gave up music. And I thought, oh, no big deal. Like, this is not going to be hard. Like, just drive home in silence. No big deal. Would you know that as soon as I sit in my car, I go to press the button to turn on the music? Oh, no, Dan, don't do that. Don't do that. So I drive, like around the corner and I'm sitting at the stoplight and without thinking about it, just automatically, I'm not thinking about music. I'm not thinking about anything. Just my habit is to turn on the radio, to listen to music again. No, stop it. Don't do it. And I realized that I have no ability to not listen to music. Like, I'm tremendously enslaved to this thing. I don't have that fortitude, that strength to say no. So fortitude is the ability to recognize what you need and to pursue it, right? Like to, in the face of things that are hard, to be able to say like, no, I'm going to choose this. Like I had no idea how enslaved I was to listening to music. I thought it was my own free choice. But as soon as I was making my own free choice to not listen to music, I found it was almost impossible for me to drive from the church to my house without turning music on. Now, this also happens in a lot of other kind of important relationships and places in our lives. Places where we need to say no, where we need to stick by our commitments, where we need to make a decision and not waver from that. And it's that kind of thing, it's that fortitude, it's that virtue of fortitude that lends us to have integrity, that brings us to the ability to say no, even when nobody is watching. And that is really, really important. The final cardinal virtue is the virtue of justice. And justice is a virtue that we might have a little bit more context for this virtue than other virtues because we understand that there's a justice system, right? There are courts and there are judges, and their whole role is to sort out and determine what is just. Now, the definition of justice from the Catechism of the Catholic Church is as follows. Justice consists of the constant and firm will to give their due to God and neighbor. Right? Justice is the thing that helps us understand, what do we owe people? What do you owe your friends? What kind of attention, what kind of time, what kind of care do you owe to your friends? Because it's really easy sometimes to get caught up in, well, they're not here right now, so I could probably talk behind their back. I could make fun of them a little bit. Is that fair? Is that what your friend deserves? Is that just? No, it's not. Everyone is entitled to justice. We talk about being pro-life, and we talk about the value and the sanctity and the dignity of every life. Well, it's that dignity, it's that value, it's that sanctity that regardless of what the person has done to us, regardless of who that person is or how bad that person is or how much they've wronged you in the past, their own inherent dignity and value is the thing that forces us to really put this virtue of justice into practice. Because everybody deserves to be defended. Everybody deserves to be loved. And everybody deserves to have dignity. And so when we're going about our lives, when we're making choices and decisions, it's important that we work constantly on making sure that we're upholding the dignity of the people around us, right? That we're giving them what they should have and what is just. And that we're also offering that to God. Because God is the one that opens the door and just invites us in, right? We can take advantage of God. We can ignore God. We can turn away from God. God will always be there for us. But God also deserves our best. God also deserves our love. God also deserves our deference, right? And our praise and our joy. And so when you're going about your life and you're going about your relationships with your friends, with your family, with your classmates, your teammates, and with God, think about offering them the best things, right? The things that they deserve. Not because of what they've done for you, but because you are a Catholic, because you are a Christian, and because you see the inherent dignity and value in each person's life. Now, real quick, I want to go over the 3 theological virtues. These are beautiful. These are not things that we can do. There's no practicing to be better at it, right? It's just through the grace of God and through the grace of the sacraments that we are strengthened and enabled to live these things out more fully. And so these theological virtues are faith, hope, and charity, sometimes called love. But faith, hope, and charity are the 3 theological virtues. Faith is a belief that God is God, right? It's what we profess at the creed every time we go to Mass, right? It's what we pray for. It's the thing that we profess, that God is real, right? And we have a belief and a trust that God has made promises to us, that He has created us, and that He is working to bring us back into relationship with Him. When we talk about the theological virtue of hope, we are talking about a belief and a confidence that what God says is reality, right? That we do have a hope to be with God in heaven, right? That Jesus' death, we believe that did open a way for us to go and to participate in the fullness of eternity with the Father. And so we hold on to a faith in God, a hope in the coming of heaven. And then finally, we talk about charity. Charity is this virtue that calls us to love, not just to love the people that are easy to love, but to love every person and to serve them and to respect them, not because of what they can do for us, but merely by virtue of the fact that they are created by God. If you love the Creator, then love the creation. And so when we look at being pro-life, right, the whole point of being pro-life is to respect the dignity and the integrity of each person, right, to uphold a right to life and the importance and the value of every single human life. Not because of what the people can do, not because of how good they will be or how talented they will be or how much of a drag on society they might be, but it's looking at every person and saying, you have an inherent worth and dignity because God created you. It doesn't matter what you can do for me. I want to respect you and love you and serve you because you are my neighbor. And so we talk about these theological virtues: faith, the belief in God; hope, the belief in heaven, right? The pursuit of heaven; and charity is the means by which we love those around us. Not just loving, but serving. These are the theological virtues. I like to ask people, how many of you want to be saints? And generally out of about 100 people, you might get 10 people that want to be saints. They will raise their hands and publicly announce, yes, I want to be a saint. However, if you ask that exact same group, how many of you want to go to heaven? Almost the entire group will raise their hand. Now, why is that? Well, the funny thing is, people don't realize that if you're in heaven, it means you're a saint. These are one and the same. Now, being a saint in heaven may not be the same thing as going through the whole process of canonization and the research and all the stuff that goes on at the Vatican, but theologically, the definition of a saint is somebody who is in heaven. These virtues, these cardinal and theological virtues, are the way that we pursue heaven. When we work on these things, when we improve these things, when we ask God and the Holy Spirit for a greater outpouring of these virtues in our lives to strengthen them, we grow in holiness. And when we grow in holiness, we prepare ourselves for eternity with God. Brothers and sisters, it's been so much fun to talk to you today. I really appreciate it. I hope you got something out of this, and God bless you.